Welcome back to the 10th podcast. Today, I'm diving into a powerful message from Luke chapter 4, verse 24 to 27, where Jesus challenges the expectations of his own people and reveals something profound about God's grace and love. This passage will teach you and I about inclusivity and the boundless nature of God's grace. Let's start by reading Luke chapter 4, verse 24 to 27. It says, "Truly I tell you, no prophet is accepted in his hometown. But I tell you truthfully that there were many widows in Israel in the time of Elijah, when the sky was shut for 3.5 years, and a great famine swept over all the land. Yet Elijah was not sent to any of them, but to the widow of Zarephath in Sidon. And there were many lepers in Israel in the time of Elisha the prophet. Yet not one of them was cleansed, only Naaman the Syrian." In this passage, Jesus is speaking to his hometown of Nazareth. He references Elijah and Elisha, two great prophets from the Old Testament. But there's a twist. Elijah was sent to help a widow in Sidon, a Gentile territory, not to any of the many widows in Israel. Similarly, Elisha healed Naaman the Syrian, not the many lepers in Israel. This was shocking to the people Jesus was speaking to. Why? Because they were expecting God's blessings to be exclusively for them, the people of Israel, them alone. They were upset because Jesus was hinting that God's grace and favor weren't limited to their nation or to their people alone. Jesus was making a powerful point. God's grace is not confined to a particular group or a specific people. Just as Elisha and Elijah were sent to outsiders, God's love and grace goes beyond the boundaries of nationality and ethnicity. This means that God's grace is available to everyone, including those who might seem like strangers to us or those who look unfit. The people of Nazareth struggled with this idea. They were so caught up in their own expectations that they failed to see the broader scope of God's love. They rejected the message that God's grace isn't limited to any one group. Jesus came into this world to die for sinners. Who else would he have died for? All who were around him were sinners. The one who thinks himself not to be a sinner is the one who has separated himself from the free gift of God. And even him, God calls him and bids him to come. Jesus came to offer salvation to all, not just to those who think they already have enough. If we think we are fine on our own, that we have enough earthly treasures, we might miss out on the greatest treasure of all, Jesus and his grace. When we turn away from him, he doesn't force us. He moves on to those who are open and in need of his grace. Jesus did not force the Pharisees and Sadducees to believe in him. Many resisted him and his claim to be the Messiah. They resisted his claim to be the Messiah. This passage challenges us to examine our own hearts. Are we open to receiving God's grace? Or do we have preconceived notions about who deserves it? Consider how God's love and grace are like rain. He gives rain to both the good and the wicked. His blessings are not limited by human differences, be it poor or rich, famous or unknown. He is generous with rain. Why would he withhold the precious gift of salvation from anyone? God's love truly extends beyond national and ethnic boundaries. The people of Israel were guilty of spiritual blindness and prejudice, believing that they alone were special. They struggled to understand that God's kingdom was not about exclusion, but about inclusion. Jesus was preparing his audience for a radical shift, the inclusion of Gentiles in God's kingdom. He wanted them to see that his mission was for everyone, not just for a select few. And we see this in the Great Commission: go into all the world and preach the good news to all nations. So what does this mean for us today? It means that God's grace is for everyone, no matter who you are or where you are from. God's love is available to you. If you find yourself in a position where you think that you don't need God's grace or you don't need this grace, remember that others who are deeply in need will gladly accept it. Let's be open to the inclusiveness of God's love and grace. Let's not be like the people of Nazareth who were blinded by their expectations. Instead, let us embrace the truth that God's love knows no boundaries and is extended to all who are willing to receive. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Luke chapter 4, verse 24 to 27. I hope this message encourages you to reflect on the boundless nature of God's grace and the importance of being open to His inclusive love. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others. Until next time, keep seeking and sharing the love of God.